Good morning. This your soul brother Talib. You better know me as also Talib on the platform of Operation Exodus Mississippi with our brother Angel Snup 7, aka Talik. Now I wanna just kinda keep it a little low. So if you feel like my voice is low, it's because I'm trying to, respect my neighbors. That's how it is when you living in an apartment building. So I'm gonna try to keep my tone a little low as I speak. But however, the topic of this video is called living in a hostile environment. You know, and of course, I may just change it to living in a hostile society because basically that's what it all is when it come down to the whole entire aspect of what I'm gonna be discussing in this video. But however, I just wanna just say that since I've been here in the state of Nebraska, which is considered the deep part of the Midwest, right in the middle of the country, and which is also referred to as the Great Plains region of the United States, you know, because of other surrounding states also in this area, such as Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and so forth on. This is where I sit at. And of course, this is one of the places where, a lot of blacks migrated at, or rather to say, a lot of blacks migrated to during the post-Reconstruction era, after slavery and all that other stuff. And, where even some blacks escaped to during the time of slavery in this country to get away from the racial hostility and enslavement oppression that they were suffering in the U.S. South at that time. And this was supposed to have been one of the places where they had considered as the promised land, and as time went on during the early 20th century, a lot of blacks came in this direction, because of the railroad industry that was, booming here in this part of the country at that time, especially between here and Omaha, which is the biggest city here in the state of Nebraska, of course. And so, however, as time went on, with the history of this place, you had a growing population of Caucasian immigrants coming out of Europe, mainly from what I was also told as well, Eastern Europe during the earlier part of the 20th century. And during that time, I think it was during the New Deal, after the Great Depression of the 1930s, where land grants were given to Caucasians in this part of the country, and which was denied at that time to blacks, and however, as time went on as well, during that period of time, you had a strong surge in the growing white supremacy movement of course, which started with the Ku Klux Klan. And, at that time, especially during the 1920s, they had a strong foothold in this area. And around that time, blacks were getting lynched in this part of the country, which contemporary American history don't talk about. Blacks was getting lynched here, Kansas, and Oklahoma, like they were down south, especially in the deep southern part of the United States, like Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi and stuff. And, they were getting lynched here. And it was like, they even, put out a threat on Malcolm X's father's life. Malcolm X's father, who was Reverend Earl Little Sr., was the leader of the local UNI Garveyite chapter in Omaha, Nebraska during that time. And, the Ku Klux Klan, as well as other people in this area, did not want to, conform to that, of course, nor accept that, let alone tolerate it just being, here because of the effect that those teachings had at the time on black people throughout the country, which was, in terms of resistance to the oppression that blacks was already suffering in this country. And, so anyway, he was threatening him and the rest of the family, which included young Malcolm, had to flee out of Nebraska, for their lives. And of course, eventually, as time went on, Malcolm X's father ended up getting killed anyway, which was allegedly which has been said that it was allegedly by the Ku Klux Klan. However, but this part of the country definitely has a deep-rooted history and racism without no question. And so with that said, matter of fact, it's a 100-year anniversary of the lynching of a black man that was lynched in Omaha, which is an hour away from where I'm at here. And, he was lynched because, of course, the same narrative like it was during the Jim Crow days in the South, where if a white woman said you raped her or something, lied, they believed it. And, of course, they, took you out there and lynched you and burnt you at the stake. And that's exactly what happened to this brother back in the year 1919, which was at this point 100 years ago. And matter of fact, like I said, prior to this year, they was talking about celebrating this brother's death as a 100-year anniversary. And, and like I said, this situation was occurring heavily throughout this part of the country, like I said. And of course, like I said, you had the immigrants here from Europe, that was also at the throats of, sons and daughters of former slaves, who had migrated from the South, to this part of the country, well as further back east, like my home state of Michigan, Illinois, and, up the East Coast, like the New York and Pennsylvania and places like that, And but like I said before, this hatred still runs deep, down through the generations. And of course, right now, due to this critical era in time that we're in, because of this hatred toward immigrants coming to this country, and stuff like that. It's a very heightened tension going on in this area here where I'm at as well in Nebraska, and I see it, because where I'm at is predominantly white, and of course, Nebraska is a predominant Caucasian conservative white state, and it's of course a so-called Republican as well as a Trump state, like most of some of these states, especially in this regional part of the country, and I mean, it's a lot of animosity because of the influx of a lot of immigrants who's came to this area over the years, plus people like myself who have migrated here from other parts of the country, and I'm talking about people like who look like me that are dark skinned, is especially like myself who is dark skinned, descendants of slaves born here in this country. And so, it's a lot of animosity going on with that. And, and since I've been here for the last few years, I've tried to be open and embracive the best way I could, But then I realized as time went on that I had to, put more distance between myself and people here because of that, intensified racial hostility, as well as so-called ethnic hostility and all this other stuff which comes along with people judging each other negatively and stereotyping each other, especially for all the wrong, unnecessary reasons, of course. And so, like I said before, it's a lot of tension, and division going on in this area. And I mean, why people talk about, what's happening in other places around the rest of the country, like Chicago, Detroit, New York City, LA, and I mean, even with the big homeless population around the country, especially on the West Coast, going on with all the same thing is happening right here in Middle America, as they call it, or as some would also refer to this part of the country as the Dust Bowl, like they used to say back in the day. And I mean, so like I said, it's going on right here in this country, but they more like to keep it swept under the rug because here in Nebraska, they don't like drawing that type of attention, especially media-wise, like other states, where a lot of police brutality is going on, a lot of other self-hate, a lot of other hate crimes going on, especially toward people who are non-Anglo-Saxon and Caucasian, and stuff like that. So, I mean, but it's happening here. But like I say, they tend to try to keep it more swept under the rug here. And that's the worstest part when you're in an area like this and stuff like that is going on, and they tend to have the power or the influence to keep it swept under the rug, and I mean, I'm here in Lincoln, Nebraska, like I say, which is the state capital of Nebraska, which is 1 hour away from Omaha, and this is also the home of the main University of Nebraska campus as well. And of course, it's a lot of racial and ethnic, bias tendencies that's taking place even on that college campus where, they really don't care for the black students that go to college there, or other non-European students that go to college there. But of course, they tolerate them to an extent because they got to for the time being, however. But they really don't want those dark-skinned people, especially black people that's going there as college students, or that's even living on the campus as college students. They don't really want them there, and so like I say, I'm living in a very hostile environment, and when I made the choice to come here, and I haven't really talked about this too much in my videos, but when I made the choice to come here at the time I came here, I was at a darker point in my life, and, I wasn't really seeing through things clearly, nor was I thinking clear at the time when I came here. So, that was, you know what I'm saying, my misfortune on my part. But however, I learned from it, and I'm making the best of the situation while I'm here, however. But I see what's going on here, and it's not pretty. It's not a pretty thing, and of course, once I'm done with what I got to do while I'm here, I will be moving on, and I've already discussed that with other people, but I'll be moving on eventually because, I thought maybe that it could be a possibility I could, stay here longer and even possibly start a little family of my own here. But at this point in time, I see that that's not going to be an option for me future-wise, because of, like I say, the dynamics, of this city and as well as state that I'm living in presently at this time. And, like I say, it's gotten worse, and I've even, conversed with, a few of the locals here who see the same thing through the same eye lens that I'm able to see this situation as, and I'm not talking about even the black locals that live here. I'm talking about the white locals that live here, who've actually told me that they've seen this place go from being better than what it used to be when they were younger or before they moved back here, and I mean, it's like, it's a, I mean, and I see signs that it's getting worse, even with the crime here. I saw where, I could walk around and feel even a little bit more safer when I first moved here a few years ago. And like I say, that's changing for the worse, and it's getting out of control. But it's not gotten out of control to the point as, I would experience seeing things like back where I'm from originally, which is Detroit, Michigan, or some place like Chicago or Atlanta or New Orleans or LA or Oakland, or something like that. It hasn't reached to that point, thankfully for now, but it's getting there. It's getting there, and it's not, turning around for the better. I could just say that much about it. And the corruption is being more exposed here, and I mean, people, you can't even feel safe riding on a city bus here no more. as it was in the case when I first moved here, more than several years ago, I mean, like I said, I had a shaky start when I first came here. And like I said, when I first came here, I felt a little bit more safe. But now, like I said, that's changing for the worse, as I said before. And I mean, it's like it's just getting bad, So like I said, and especially, of course, with the high tension of racial hostility as well as other different forms of division that's going on here, So, like I said, it's just getting real crazy, and that just told me right there that, you know, it's this type of mentality is just not restricted to certain particular parts of the country. It's all over the country. It's all over the place, basically. It's all over the world, but it's all about where I could go and find my niche and move from there, because here I really can't find my niche, like I want to. Like I said, I'm doing better enough, to make the situation the best way I can, or to just make this out of, a better situation as possible until I get out of here, but I see, like I said, the quirks that's going on here, and it's other better places than here, especially through my analyzation of research far as other parts of the country is concerned, that I could go to and, move on with my life. Because, I mean, this is not a big city, of course. It's about 300,000 people. And without the college students, when they're on break, it's lesser than that. So, I mean, this place is like one of these type of cities where people, it's almost like everybody know everybody in their family, and people talk a lot around here and all this kind of stuff too, and that poses more unnecessary problems than it usually would even in a bigger city or metropolitan area, because people here just simply don't know how to mind their business, especially when it comes to certain things, which is not necessary for people to, involve themselves in when it ain't got nothing to do with them, But like I said before, this is the type of place that I'm in, and I mean, and if people, do embrace you, it's getting to more to the point where it's definitely not genuine, In other words, it's more so fake than anything else. And so, like I said, this is what's coming down the pike as far as getting worse. And this is also a part of the so-called black experience in America. And the reality is that, especially being a dark-skinned descendant of a slave born here in America, it's, of course, getting worse all the way around all the time, As a matter of fact, Nebraska has been said to be one of the hardest places for the so-called African American to be able to live. Of course, Omaha, because there are more blacks in Omaha than here where I'm at, in anywhere else throughout the rest of the state, So they that's supposed to be one of the top 5 worstest places for the so-called African American here in the United States, from what I was told even when I first moved here, So, I mean, and usually I don't go off on statistics and stuff because situations could vary, but I wouldn't, doubt that Omaha is one of the worstest places for black people to live in this country because, like I said, I'm sitting right here in the state capital of Lincoln, Nebraska, which is an hour away from Omaha. And so, I could see the conservative racism here, the straight out, as well as covert racism that goes on here, and it's very, visible. So I could definitely see what type of state I'm living in, So, of course, I would not doubt why they would say that, Omaha and mainly Nebraska all together, far as I'm concerned anyway, is one of the most worstest places for blacks to be at here in the United States. And of course, had I did more thorough research about it, I wouldn't even be here having this conversation on this video about it right now. But of course, like I said, when I first came here, I was not in my right state of mind, of course. I was in a dark place in my life at that time, and, and things happened, of course, So as I moved on, like I said, at this point in time, I'm making the best of the situation until I eventually leave here, But like I said, it's not, it's definitely not a cupcake walk for me. I mean, of course, I don't have to leave out my apartment building looking over my shoulders to see which way gunshots is coming, or gunshots is being fired from because I'm in the middle of somebody else's conflict or whatever, like I was when I was living in a bigger metropolitan area. I ain't got to worry about that type of situation. Thank goodness, but there are elements here though, where I still have to be careful and where I still have to move around on a careful, level and be more conscious of who I'm around and what's going on, so I could keep myself protected, from any harm, But like I said before, it's definitely a situation where I find myself, experiencing what is also really to be a dark-skinned descendant of a slave born in America because like I said, I've been around different other various parts of the United States throughout my years of travel and all that stuff, and I've seen a little more worse, of course, and I've experienced a little bit more worse, on that aspect of things, as far as racism and all that stuff. But like I said, here, like I was told when I first got here, and when I came here I came here from Kentucky at the time, and when it was found out that I had came from Kentucky, the first thing someone told me was, look, you only came a little further north. You know what I'm saying? Just remember that. You only came a little further north. And, the rest didn't need to be even spoken because what was already understood from that basic statement let me know exactly where I was at and what I needed to expect being here. So, you know, that's the type of situation, you know, that I constantly see myself experiencing and like I said, eventually, hopefully, maybe once, my life, uh once more successes obtained in my life from this point on, maybe I would even write a book about this. When I do write a book, I would include much of this particular situation in it because it's like it's I try to tell people, you know, in other parts of the country that I know who hasn't never experienced this type of racism here, especially being black here in America. You know, they think they know, but they haven't really experienced it like that because they used to be in metropolitan areas like where I'm from originally, or New York, or Atlanta, or somewhere like Houston, or LA, or Oakland, or Chicago, or Cleveland, where they ain't had to walk out the door every day. Besides seeing a few trinkets of other different groups of people here and there, but seeing mostly just white Caucasian people, and they haven't really ever had the experience just it being right pushed right in your face soon as you walk out the door. And it's not like I'm getting constantly called the N-word to my face every day or, or something like that. But once in a while, I get somebody driving past me in a car or something, or that'll lean out and scream the N-word or something like that as well. I get that, of course, and something which I experienced, of course, when I first got here, even to the point where I was threatened that I would be lynched, and that particular time I responded to that situation highly emotional because of the fact that I felt that my safety was at risk at that time. And unfortunately, did nothing happen. But this is the type of environment that I find myself in, and of course, as I continue to live on, as well as learn, like when I leave here, I would know exactly where I'm going because I would have it thoroughly researched. I would have thoroughly researched where I'm going so that I would know exactly what to expect, unlike the situation was when I first came here to Nebraska. So, but other than that, like they say, we live and learn, so that's how that situation is. We all entitled to a mistake here and there. We never go without making mistakes, but one thing about it, we can always learn from them, especially if we continue to live through them. So, at the end of the day, I'm not, you know, tripping, or mad at myself, as I was, especially when I first came here, of course, but I could see it's just something that I must continue to learn from. You know, don't make that same mistake by going to a place that I don't know nothing about. You know, and it's very important that before we move anywhere that we do our research about that place we're planning on moving to before we just up and jump and go there. You know, especially like if you leaving from the U.S. trying to go to another country. It's the same thing with traveling or moving from one state to another. It's not much different when it comes to the geographical change aspect of things. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, it's been a very venturous experience here for me in what they call Middle America, or what some call Middle America, of course, and it's it's been a very interesting journey for me, and like I said, so far I'm making the best of it, of course, until I leave here. But like I said, it's not it's also, especially being black, it's not a cakewalk. I could tell you that. I could tell you that one for sure. Like with anywhere else throughout the rest of the United States. So like I said before, but here, like I said, they have a tendency to keep things, basically swept under the rug. So, it won't be publicly known throughout the rest of the media where the whole world will be watching, like when somebody turn on their TV and they see Ferguson, or they see Baltimore, or they see LA, because of the Rodney King situation, or because they see what's happening in Baton Rouge, or, somebody like Brother Eric Gardner getting choked to get death over selling cigarettes in New York City, or something like that, or because, somebody, got killed in Detroit during a drug raid or a raid on a house while a show was being filmed on the A&E channel, because some cop recklessly shot a young black man 16 times and killed him in Chicago. No, of course, you're not going to see that here. But, and plus, because it's less issues concerning police brutality here, fortunately, that don't happen because of policies here that have been fortunately able to keep stuff like that prevented because of past issues with that same situation, which was going on years ago prior to me living here in Nebraska, or at least here in Lincoln, Nebraska, of course. And so that type of situation where you hear about constant police shootings of black people or other people of so-called color, I mean, it just doesn't go on here like that. But like I said, of course, racism in other ways is still visible here, of course, and which makes it more of a hostile, environment, where I can't even go too many places without getting looked at strangely or funny, or because of negative stereotypes of black people in general, especially if you're a black male. And then, basically, it's not too many places to go So basically, I got to stay in the confines of my own residential dwelling to be able to, get through the day. Now sometimes I may go out, of course, to enjoy a nice day out or whatever. But of course, like I said, it's not too many places I could go here to where I could find enjoyment, and it ain't too much here to do anyway. So I mean, it's like I have to kind of keep myself sheltered in a certain way of sense of speaking, especially to stay out the way of the hostile environment that I see every day. I open up my door and walk out. So, like I said, this is the type of situation that I'm living in, especially in the so-called age of Trump, which of course don't make things no better. And so, and plus, of course, there's a lot of bias and prejudices and racism going on toward the local immigrants here like it is throughout the rest of the country. So, that also helps to compound the situation even more worse here in America. In this part of America, like in other parts throughout this country. So, I mean, this is the type of society we're living in. And this is why, from this platform, I always tell us, particularly those who are like myself, dark-skinned descendants of slaves born here in America, that, I advise you, because I can't tell you nothing, but I advise you to, if you really want to be free of this type of oppression, you must separate eventually, because it's gonna come soon a time where you may not have no choice at all, or end up being exterminated. You either have two choices: separate or be exterminated, and that's just point blank and simple. And I know most of you, especially in social media land, take that statement for a joke, like you have so many other times when people has brought that to your attention, but like a brother on the same platform I speak from always say, we're no different like the Jews in Nazi Germany who did not believe the warning when it was being brought to them. And what happened? The Nazis came knocking at their door and ended up hauling them off to them concentration camps and them gas chambers in them concentration camps that was also awaiting them. So, I mean, at any given moment of opportunity in a society like this, we could face a similar fate. I mean, so I mean, like they say, keep playing with fire. This is not no game. This is real, and this is why I'm glad that in my early 50s, I don't have no kids, nor grandchildren of my own. I'm glad that I don't share that responsibility to have brought them into a hostile environment or situation like this, to where they got to, live as slaves and deal with life as a slave do, because this is nothing but slavery. You could twist it and turn it any kind of way you want, but this is a slave-like condition, which only a slave knows. And that's why I'm glad I didn't help to bring other slaves into this world, to have to deal with a situation like this and what we see in the type of society that we're living in. So like I said before, this is just the reality of what's going on here, and I'm glad that I was able to make this video because it's important to know that because you don't hear about stuff going on in places like here in Nebraska like you do in other parts of America, especially metropolitan areas in America, don't mean that it's not that it's not going on. you know. So I just want to throw that reality point out there as well, and you know, and matter of fact, if they even if it comes to a situation where it's a dark skinned person getting killed by some racist cop here, whatever, you know, they got their ways here sweeping it under the rug where it won't get out to the rest of the media. And it's already happened, matter of fact, since I've been here. So, I mean, this is why the rest of the country don't know about it, like you know about Ferguson, like you know about the killings of black people in Baltimore, or the police killings of black people in New York and Chicago, you know, because like I said, they have a tendency to know how to keep stuff swept under the rug here, and this is the like I say, the type of situation, and there's more stuff happening in Omaha than here, and somehow we don't see what's going on in Omaha on the front page of national news or world news. Because, of course, Nebraska, once again, like I said, is that type of state where they keep stuff swept under the rug. In other words, hidden, so the rest of the world won't know about what's going on, So, like I said before, it is what it is, and I mean, you know, this is why I tell or advise other, descendants of slaves born here in America that if you're traveling, know that there's some places here in America where you're going to be traveling at your own risk. If you choose to go to them certain places, you will be traveling at your own risk. Matter of fact, a couple of years ago, if not a year ago, the NAACP recently put out a memorandum which talked about blacks traveling at their own risk in the state of Missouri. See, this is real. And Missouri is just right across the line from here in Nebraska, So, this is real. This is definitely real. This is not no game. And we are in a very hostile, racist society. This is just the norm of what we're living with. And we choose to want to remain comfortable in our slave-like condition and our oppression, like ain't nothing going on. We ignore all the warnings, the signs, and when it comes to slap us in our face, then it's too late. So like I said before, this is why I don't really care too much about what happens to other black people. I really don't. When I get online, I see a lot of stuff. Whether it's police shootings of other black people, whether it's some type of racial hatred, crime happening toward another dark-skinned person or whatever, or some type of discriminate, crime or act that's happened toward another dark-skinned person in this country, and you know what I do? I scroll right past the article or the glitch of the article, because I don't care. Because the first thing come across my mind, this is America. What do you expect? That's the only reminder I see is what do you expect? This is America. That's supposed to happen. This is the type of society we're living in. Duh. So like I said, this is not a game. We're not trying to prepare ourselves as a people, far as us as dark-skinned descendants of slaves born in America, to get out of this cesspool, to make a safe way for ourselves and our future generations to come behind us, but by at least taking control of a state such as Mississippi, and then moving on to taking other control of states like Alabama and Georgia, whereas many of us at as dark-skinned descendants of slaves born here in America, where we have states behind us to protect us from this type of onslaught of hatred and hostility. But we refuse to because of our, lack of unity and because of the major division among us as a people in this country, So, this is what we got to expect, when we don't want to come together as a people for the best interests of all of us as dark-skinned descendants of slaves born in America, no matter what status or walk of life we come from. We all deserve to be free of this craziness, far as racism, gerrymandering, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, and all this other crazy stuff we experience every day as a people in this nation, police brutality, racial profiling, and the list goes on. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, we supposed to get what we get when we don't want to heed the signs or warnings, especially when it's coming from platforms like what I speak from, which is only giving you the real. Because as a brother say, we keeps it real at this platform, and that's the only thing I could do is give you the real on what's happening. No more, no less. So like I said before, with that said, I just wanted to throw some stuff out there this morning before I get ready to get up and get on with the rest of my day, and just let you know how serious this situation still is until we decide to do something about it. We're going to keep on continuing to suffer until eventually we are exterminated. And hopefully that won't happen. But hey, we'll see. With that, I want to say one word, and that's peace.